I was in a house that was bombed last night. My own. It isn't something that makes me lose confidence in what I am doing. Do you want to know why? Because my husband, he understands. And I have children. And even in their young age, they understand. I believe that they would rather have a mother who will take a stand in the face of any kind of reaction from narrow-minded people than to compromise and later on have to grow up in shame and disgrace. When you and I are discussing our problems, we must be very concise, very cool, calm, collected. That doesn't mean we always should be. There's a time to be cool and a time to be hot. There's a time to love and a time to hate. I met this white woman the other day who had no idea who I was. We were riding along in a nice conversation for 40 minutes, like humans. There was no hostility, no animosity, just human. When she found out who I was, she was quiet. Later on, she told me that I wasn't what she was imagining. She was imagining a person with horns and all that, and someone who was out to kill all white people. As if all white people could be killed. So before I get involved with anything nowadays, allow me to straighten out my position, which is clear. I am not a racist. I don't believe in any form of racism or discrimination. I don't believe in any form of segregation. I believe in Islam. I am a Muslim. And there's nothing wrong with being a Muslim, nothing wrong with believing in Islam. The yardstick that a Muslim uses to define another person isn't their color. It is their decisions, their actions, their intentions. When you use this as a measurement for justice, you never go wrong. I don't live in a society that practices brotherhood. I live in a society that might preach it on a Sunday, but doesn't practice it on any day. It is a society that is primarily controlled by racists and segregationists in positions of power. They're violent when their interests are at stake. But when it comes time for you and I to protect ourselves from lynchings, they tell us to be non-violent. They're violent. But when it comes time for us to get just a little bit of freedom, they tell us to be non-violent. That's a shame. And when someone gets up here and speaks just as I have, they say why she's advocating violence. I have never advocated for violence. I have only ever said that Black people, we should defend ourselves. I believe that Black people, moreover, people all over the world, will become more justified no matter how many necks we have to break or skulls we have to crack. I saw on the news the other day where they took this Black woman down in Selma, Alabama, took her right there where she was standing and threw her on the ground. You saw it. You're trying to act like you didn't see it because you know you should have done something about it and you didn't. The police and his henchmen took this innocent black woman and threw her on the ground. On the ground! And there were fully grown Negro men standing around doing absolutely nothing about it, saying, let's overcome them with our capacity to love. What kind of a statement is that? Overcome them with our capacity to love? And then it disgraces the rest of us. Because the image is plastered up of a white man in his boots standing on a black woman and fully grown black men doing nothing about it. You can't reach a man if you don't speak his language. If a man speaks the language of brute force, you can't come at him with pace. Why, good night! He'll break you in two as he has been doing all along. If the man speaks French, you can't speak to him in German. If he speaks Swahili, you can't speak to him in Chinese. You have to find out how this man speaks. And once you know his language, learn to speak his language and he'll get the point. There will finally be some dialogue. In January of 1963, everyone was celebrating the centennial of progress. Everyone was raving about how much black people and white people were finally learning to love each other. If you would have stood up in January of that year and told them that by May, Birmingham would have exploded and John F. Kennedy would be assassinated for his involvement in all of it. If you would have told them that 3 little black girls would get blown to bits while praying, or that 3 civil rights workers would be brutally murdered and the government unable to do anything about it. If you told them what's now in store, they'll think you're crazy for sure. But this year is going to be the longest and the hottest and the bloodiest year of them all. Not because I want it to be, or you want it to be, or we want it to be, but because the conditions are still there. Those explosive conditions are still there. As long as those conditions, those harmful, dangerous, explosive conditions remain, you have the potential for an explosion on your hands. Thank you.